Hey everybody, welcome back to the Make Insurance Simple Home and Auto Insurance course. We're on video number 2. We've gotten through the intro. Now we're starting to dig in to a little bit more of the real stuff, the stuff that's going to make you really be able to understand your insurance policy, your home insurance policy, your auto insurance policy, and have a foundation. And today's topic is really, it's the thing that you're going to, every time I'm talking about something about auto insurance or something about homeowners insurance, you're going to say to yourself, okay, is it property or liability? And so, that's right. Today's topic is property versus liability coverage, the two different types of coverage that exist on your home and auto policies. Almost everything. There's a couple of exceptions, but almost everything you can say, okay, is it property coverage or is it liability coverage? And after you're done with this video, you'll have a foundation in what that means every time you look at a coverage on an insurance policy. So good deal. What you're going to learn, everything else, like I said, builds off of these two basic pieces. What are they? Property coverage and liability coverage. All right. Let's review though. Let's step back a little bit and just look at what we already went over in the last video. We got a quick overview of the most basic parts of an insurance policy. There are 4 of them. Let's go over them right now. So the first one is the one you know the most, and that's called the declarations pages. It has the coverage limits on it, and it tells you what's covered on your policy. So it's the one, you look at the most, and until you started going through this course, you may have thought that that was your entire insurance policy. The next part is the legal language, the forms, the guts. I told the story of sitting while I was on jury duty and really digging through the guts of the policy. People who dig through legal language, it's just tough. It's a lot of detailed things, but in the end, it is absolutely what drives your claim experience. What is covered and what isn't covered is the forms of the insurance policy and the guts. Endorsements, this is the add-ons we talked about. You can buy a basic car when you buy a new car, you can buy a souped up car. And that souped up car has a bunch of add-ons that make it better, work better, more functional, all those kinds of things. Insurance policies absolutely have the same thing. Endorsements make the policy work better, make it work better for you in a claim situation because it has more coverage. Kind of the opposite of that, the last thing, is the exclusions. So what's missing? Yes, in fact, your insurance policy does not cover every possible thing in the world that could happen. Exclusions exist on all policies, and what is or isn't excluded has everything to do with, how your claim will go when something bad happens. So we talked about those 4 basic parts: declarations pages, forms, endorsements, and exclusions. The second part of our first video, we talked about coverage limits. These are the things that make your policy different from someone else who has a policy with the same the same company. The coverage limits are the amount of money your insurance company will pay for each kind of loss or bad thing that happens. So an insurance policy can run out of money in a given claim situation. The company could have paid all the way up to the coverage limits, and even though there's still more to be paid, still more damage done, the company stops paying because they've reached the coverage limits, and the rest of the cost of fixing that damage is on you. All right, and finally, I strongly suggested that you dig up your actual home and auto policies and have them right next to you right now. Hopefully, in that last video, you were able to go and find, dig your policies up from your closet if that's where you had to find them, or contact your insurance agent or your insurance company and ask them for the declarations pages. Hopefully, you told them about the course you're taking and encouraged them to check it out. But you got your declarations pages somehow, and we've got a couple of examples here for you. This one is a homeowner's declarations page, just the main page really, and here is an auto policy declarations page, and we'll go over both of those different kinds of coverage in the auto video and in the home video. But having them with you right now really helps you to get a sense of what everything is that's going on. And as I talk about property coverage or liability coverage, you can look and say, okay, well, what do I think these are? And whether you know or not, we will dig into them in the auto policy video and the home policy video. So have your policy next to you. All right, the tiny disclaimer, got to say it again. This course is meant to provide very general advice. I'm in no way confirming details about your specific insurance policies. Those conversations should happen between you and your insurance advisor. I said it last video, I'll say it next video. The goal of these courses is to give you a basic foundation in how insurance works. My intention is not to look at your exact policy, not to be your insurance advisor, but to give you a basic foundation in how insurance works so that you can look at your policies, make educated decisions, and have educated conversations with the folks that advise you. So that's it. All right, let's dig into it. So the first of the two different kinds of coverage is property coverage, and this is a coverage that most people know a little bit better. Property coverage is the coverage for your stuff if something bad happens to it. So you've got stuff, right? And you have insurance policies, and the first thing you think of when you think of your insurance policies is the fact that your insurance policy is going to cover your stuff. So that could be your house, that could be your car. It could be your dining room table. Absolutely. We would expect that to be covered. Your shed out back. If it got taken out by a tornado, we would think that, that would be covered. Your jewelry, of course, your clothes for sure, your ping pong table. I don't know about you, but my ping pong table is one of my most prized possessions in my house. I get it down in my garage and get it out and play ping pong with my son. And I know that if something happened to my house, one of the first things I would say is, hey, I want my ping pong table replaced, and I would expect that my insurance policy would cover that. Your stuff. Simply put, property coverage is coverage for your stuff. Whether it's your auto policy or your homeowner's policy, when we're talking about property coverage, we're talking about coverage for your stuff. And you're probably like, oh yeah, okay, I get that. That's how insurance policies work. Great, good. But now you have it. Property coverage, your stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the other kind, liability coverage. And liability coverage is the one that people don't understand quite as well usually. And so this is the second foundation of the two different foundational things that we look at in every home and auto insurance policy. And liability coverage, put simply, is coverage for bad things that happen to other people because of you. Bad stuff that happens to somebody else. You didn't mean to do it, but it happened. And those other people, maybe they're hurt, maybe their stuff is damaged, and they're going to expect you to fix that for them. And the coverage on your policy that's going to do that is called liability coverage. So what are some examples? Well, your car hits another car. Absolutely. Your dog bites a neighbor. Okay, so that's something bad that happened to somebody else. A friend falls down your stairs. Your stairs didn't mean to do it. You didn't want your friend to fall down your stairs, but it happened, and so that's something bad that happened to someone else. And finally, kind of the quintessential example of liability coverage is you hit a golf ball through somebody's window. And the interesting thing about liability coverage is, when you're on a golf course or somewhere else, you're not at your home, but your liability coverage on your homeowner's policy or your renter's policy absolutely does cover in that situation. So liability coverage can extend out from your home to different places if you do something, something bad happens to other people because of you. And finally, oh man, this one is a tough one. The local personal injury attorney slips on your icy driveway. Personal injury attorneys have so much to do with liability coverage and how it works and why it works the way it does. If you had the local personal injury attorney slip on your icy driveway, that would not be a good thing. And that would definitely be covered under your liability coverage. All right, let's dig a little bit further into liability coverage since it is kind of the harder one to understand and the one we don't think about as much. So, liability claims generally come in the form of, we'll give you some examples here so you can get a sense. What is a liability claim and how does it look? Well, the most common liability claim is paying an injured person's medical bills. So I get claims all the time. They're not that big of a deal. Something happened, someone broke a bone, someone, slipped and fell, is hurt, and that absolutely matters, but isn't, majorly damaged or anything like that. And so we're going to help to pay the medical bills that are because something bad to happen to someone because of us. So paying medical bills, absolutely. Then sometimes things get a little ugly and lawsuits happen. And so your insurance policy, the liability coverage on your insurance policy is going to defend you in a lawsuit. So the insurance company's lawyers are going to do that work. You don't have to hire lawyers. You don't have to figure all that part out. The insurance company is going to take care of defending you in a lawsuit. In some of the worst case scenarios, like someone passes away, then, the insurance company is going to figure pain and suffering, and these are obviously terrible situations. And, the insurance company is going to figure that out, and they're going to pay for, the family members or whatnot, for the pain and suffering. And finally, if a lawsuit does settle, or if a lawsuit goes to the very end of a court case and the other person wins, then the insurance company is going to pay up to the coverage limits, the settlement or the cost of the lawsuit as it's figured out. So paying the lawsuit settlement would be the last piece of how liability claims generally come from. Okay, so let's talk about, all right, not so fun fact. I mean, we're talking about liability coverage. Liability, definitely, these kinds of claims can be the worst kinds of situations, and so they're kind of ugly. And let's look at some of those not so fun facts. There are two most common liability claims. Got any ideas? Got any guesses? Well, the first one might be obvious when you read it. It's damage done to another person's car. Probably 70% of the claims that I experience as an insurance agent are, my car ran into someone else's car. Their car is damaged. We're going to have to fix the bumper. We're going to have to fix, whatever is damaged. And nobody's hurt or anything like that. But the other person's car is damaged. And if you live in an at-fault state, which we'll talk about in the auto policy video, we're going to pay for the damage to another person's car. And of course, that is liability coverage. That other person's car isn't your property. It's someone else's property, but it's something bad that happened to their property because of you. And so your liability coverage will cover that. And the second most common one, this is a homeowner's one. Any guesses? What's the most common homeowner's claim? It's a dog bite. Dog bites make up the most common homeowners claims and the most amount of money paid out for one specific kind of claim. About 25% of homeowners insurance claims are dog bite claims. So we think about, well, okay, a dog, that's my possessions. I mean, dogs are your possession, and your dog did something bad to someone else and they are injured because of it. And so we're going to have a liability claim on our homeowner's policy, and we're going to take care of, whatever damage was done to that person. So the two most common liability claims are damage done to someone else's car, and that would be your auto policy, and then dog bites, something that your animal hurt someone else, that would be your homeowner's policy. All right, so let's play a quick game. We are going to call this game Property or Liability, and I'm going to give you a claim example, and then on the other side is going to be whether it's property or liability, and you're going to figure it out and see how it goes. So let's start with the first one. Your car got stolen. Man, you parked it outside of the party you went to one night, and then you went back out, and it just plain was gone, not there anymore, completely stolen, never to be seen again. Is that a property or a liability claim? All right, let's try the next one. Your dog bit the mailman. Well, I just talked about this one, so it should be pretty straightforward. But, you had your dog. Mailman was coming up to deliver something. Dog got out the door and, latched on a little bit. And the mailman had some injuries, needed to be fixed. What was that claim? Is that a property claim or is it a liability claim? All right, the third one. A neighbor breaks her arm on your deck. So you had a party the other night, had all your buddies over, everybody was hanging out maybe for a soccer match or something like that, and somebody slips and falls and breaks their arm on your back deck. And that's obviously something that happened in your property. And so is that a property claim or is it a liability claim? And the last one, let's see what this last one is. Your pipes burst. and flood the basement. So you got the basement all set up, man. It's like the man cave or whatever, and you got nice carpet in there and some great couches. And got really cold one night. Maybe you live in the Northeast or something like that, and the pipes burst. And when everything thawed in the morning, you went downstairs and found your basement with 6 inches of water flooding it. Is that a property or a liability claim? All right, let's check it out. The car got stolen. Well, that's a property claim. It's your stuff. So your stuff was here. Now it's gone. That is theft, and it's absolutely, it's covered on your auto policy if you have theft coverage. How about your dog bit the mailman? Well, that's a liability claim. Something bad happened to someone else because of you or your possessions or your family. A neighbor breaks her arm on your deck. Well, that's also a liability claim because it's something bad that happened to someone on your property. And finally, your pipes burst and flood the basement. This one, I obviously wouldn't do 3 in a row of one kind, so we've got to go back to property. This is indeed damage to your stuff that would be covered under your policy as long as you have coverage for frozen pipes. All right. Hope that was kind of a fun game, and I hope you have a sense of how we think about property and liability when we're dealing with all this stuff. Is it a property claim? Is it a liability claim? It definitely helps to understand how the claim will be dealt with afterwards. All right, now we've got a rookie mistake. We did a simple one in the intro, and now we're going to do the single biggest rookie mistake of all. The single biggest rookie mistake of all. We're going to break it out right now, and that is carrying too low of liability limits. I've talked about coverage limits, and liability limits are so very important because, you know, if you're carrying really low limits, then you get into some of those examples that I gave you when I was talking about liability coverage, and you've got $10,000 of coverage or $20,000 of coverage, and suddenly you're in a $200,000 claim situation or liability situation. The local personal injury attorney's involved, and you're looking at potentially dealing with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your own pocket because you didn't cover yourself with high enough liability limits. So I can't say it again. I'll stress this during the auto and home videos that carrying too low of liability limits is really not a great idea. And when you see the difference in price for higher liability limits, it'll blow you away. So many times people carry low liability limits just to get the cheapest possible thing. And when you look at how much it costs you to have slightly higher liability limits, it's like, dollars a month, very limited amount of cost for additional coverage, so your coverage. So the single biggest rookie mistake of all is definitely carrying too low of liability limits. All right, so what did we learn in this video? Well, we established the 2 basic kinds of coverage that your brain is going to think every time we talk about something. Is this one or the other? And that is property coverage or liability coverage. Is it coverage for my stuff, or is it coverage for bad things that happen to other people because of me, my family, or my belongings? Okay, so what's coming up next? Well, I use this metaphor, and, again, I don't know if you're loving the metaphor. Definitely head to the Facebook page and let me know about it. But I'm using the metaphor of a 4-course video, and I said that, we had set the table for the dinner, the 4-course dinner when we did the intro video, and that this one, the property and liability, was the appetizer, just getting our taste buds going, getting a sense of how the meal is going to go through. And so now it's time to dig into the first of 2 main courses. So it's time to dig into the main courses, and in the next video, we'll get you familiar with your auto insurance coverage. So we're going to get right to it. I've been saying auto insurance and homeowners insurance for the last 2 videos, and now we're going to dig into those policies one at a time. The next video will be auto insurance coverage, and the video after that will be homeowners insurance coverage, just breaking those down so you can really take a look at it. So look forward to that. And then, of course, the last thing we do, as always, the last step in this video is to head back to the dashboard. And if you haven't done so already, join our Make Insurance Simple Facebook group. And if you have joined it already, head over there there and talk about this property versus liability video, something new you learned, something you didn't realize before, question you maybe have about something that I said. Pop it out there on that Facebook group and get some answers from your peers, colleagues, other folks who are coming to understand insurance in the same way you are. So I look forward to seeing you over on that Facebook group, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video, the main course. We're going to dig in to auto insurance coverage. Can't wait to have you over there. We'll see you on the other side.